So what we're going to look at here today is doing an extrude into a form. So the shape I've got up on here is a concave form. I've got some text on top that I want to extrude into it. Now, if you do a normal extrude, let me just hop into an extrude right now, and I'll do a Windows select of my text. And if I want to extrude, let's just do a, we'll do a cut. And let's just extend this a little bit out into the body here. So you can see extrudes are, as we normally expect extrudes to be, they are planar. That's a flat geometry that we select, and it extrudes straight down in one direction. And that is not the result that we're after. We want this extrude to extrude an equal amount around this shape of the form. So what we're going to do here is look at how we can do that. Obviously, we can't do it within this, this normal operation here of a solid extrude, but it is possible in Mastercam. Here's a finished result. Again, I've got my geometry set to translucent so we can actually see through. So there is the result that we're after here. It's the text that's extruded an equal amount around that form. And what we'll do in this video here is we'll look at how we can do this in not only concave, but we'll look at convex. We can look at multiple flowing direction surfaces as well, and even extruding into multiple surfaces. So with that, I'll make a note here as well. This is much easier in SolidWorks. It's not impossible in Mastercam, but there is an extrude type that's not possible in Mastercam, but we'll save that for the end of the video once I have SolidWorks all loaded up. So first, let's have a look at how we can extrude this into a form. So before we hop into a function here and just start creating this, let's kind of figure out what it is we're trying to do, or what it is we're about to do. Because we don't have a function in here that's extrude to a surface or extrude offset to a surface, like we have in, say, SolidWorks. So what we're going to do here is do a normal extrude or extrude cut into this form. And then basically what we're going to do is create a new floor that's offset from this surface. So we would take this surface, offset it by however deep we want our extrude to be, and that would be our new floor. We would incorporate that new floor into the existing extrude, and then kind of get rid of the excess extrude below that new floor. So that's what we're trying to do. How can we go about doing it? Now, there's a bunch of different ways to do this, and I'll try and cover a few here, and you could take away what makes most sense for you. But the ones we'll be looking at here is impression, and we'll also be looking at trim to surface sheet. I think this one here is the best option, simply because we can do multiple pieces of geometry at the same time. But impression is maybe, I don't know, if you prefer to use impression, you might like it. So I'll go through a process with that one as well. So how we're going to use the trim to sheet is basically we're going to do our normal extrude. Let me just grab one piece of geometry here. I'll grab maybe just that guy there. Do a normal extrude body. So what I would do is do an extrude like this, hit OK. And then I would take this solid body. This is its own solid body right now. It's not incorporated into our main feature yet. And what I would do is I would take this this solid body and trim it to a surface. But the thing is, I don't have that surface right now. I need to create that surface, which is going to be the new fake floor, or the new bottom of this guy over here. And notice the naming of this here, it says surface or sheet. So we can't use a solid body for that. Let me give you an example here. Let's hop into the function right now. Select the body you want to trim. I could say that guy there. Hit enter. Select the surface or sheet to trim to. And if I try and grab the solid here, it doesn't allow me to grab anything. So I can't use this solid body. So let's create a new body that we're going to trim to. Let's add a new level in here. Let's go level 30. And I'm going to do since I've got a pretty easy shape here, I'm kind of cheating. So I could just go ahead and create a sphere and, just offset it by however deep I wanted this to go. But what we could also do here, especially if this is a complex shape, is go surface from solids, select that face, end selection. Okay, make sure I keep the original solid here. I don't want to delete that. I just want this new surface. Hit OK. And so this would be the surface from solid. And I'm going to create another new level. Let's go 31. And now I can use this function over here called offset. Let me just turn off everything else over here. So I'll go offset, select my surface and selection. That's gone to the inside right now, and instead of messing around with the flips down here, I'm fine if you can just use the offsets here, and I want to go positive 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to copy it. I could move, but let's just do a copy here. Green check. Let's give that a new level. Let's go offset surf. Turn off the original surface, turn back on our extrude. Back to our solids tab, and now let's do a trim to surface sheet. Select the solid body, this guy, enter when done. And now select the sheet to trim to. Make sure I'm going to go over here and go only surfaces, and I should be able to get that surface selected. There you can see a preview. Green check. Let's turn off the offset surface level. And so what I've got right now is the letter C that extends just below, it's tough to see, our convex shape, our form. And now what we can do is a Boolean operation. And I have to reselect that. I think I grabbed the wrong solid there. Make sure I get this as the target, that as the tool, and we would be doing a remove. Okay, and there we get the letter C. Let's go into a top view here. Turn our text back on. So there you can see it's the letter C that's been projected down from here. It lands onto the surface, and then it's extruded into that by a consistent distance around the shape of that form. So let's have a look at how impression would work now. So with impression, this is going to work a little bit differently. Number one, this is going to be dealing with, we're extruding to a solid, whereas with this function over here, we were trimming with a surface. So what I'm going to do here is create a duplicate of this guy. I'm just going to duplicate it over onto a new level. Copy it onto, let's say, 32. And what I'm going to do with this new guy, I'm going to remove the letter C. So using some model prep functions here, I'll just do a modify feature. Need to remove history here first to be able to do this. No problem. Double click, remove. And I'm also going to get rid of this chamfer here, just so it doesn't get in the way of what I'm about to do. And so this is an exact copy of our original, except for obviously we removed the letter C and the chamfer. And what I'm going to do here is use push-pull to move this surface out by 1/8 of an inch. So minus 0.125. And this is acting as our new floor. So this is what we're still doing. We're still creating the floor of the letters. So what we can do now with this impression function. So I'll click on impression. Now there is a limitation with impression. And that is we can only select one chain at a time. So if we wanted to do all these letters, we would have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever it is, different functions of the impression here. So with this much text, probably not worthwhile, but given the shape that you're trying to use, this might be okay, especially if you have a solid that you can extrude to. So even though that we do have a window selection option, if we do window select a bunch of text or a bunch of chains, it will only recognize the very first chain in that selection. So I'm going to do a full chain here, and I'm going to work with the letter M. You can see as soon as I chain that, the chaining manager closes down. And let's now grab a face, and we're grabbing that interface right there, green check. And what you can see what is done there quite simply is a new solid body has been created from the chain that we selected, and it's been extruded to the face of the solid that we picked in that impression mode there. Okay, so same thing we did before. I would turn on my original part, and we would do a Boolean operation, which I again had pre-selection there. So let's go ahead and make sure we get the right solid as the body, and then select our correct solid as the tool. We're doing a remove again, green check. Let's turn off the extra model there. And so you can see the result is the same. We're getting the letter extruded straight down to the surface, extruded by a consistent amount into our form. Okay, so the difference there, with impression, we can work with only one chain at a time, but we can work with a solid face. When we're using trim to sheet, we can work with multiple chains at a time, and we have to use a surface or a solid sheet to trim to, so we have to do some extra creation in there. So, and maybe what I'll do here now to finish off this text extrude and to maybe make a part of this video that's condensed for those just looking for the answer to this problem without all the extra talking I just did, I'll work through the process of doing these remaining letters using the trim to surface function. So what we're doing first here is we're doing an extrude, and I'm going to do a full chain selection mode here, even though windowing would work much quicker because I want to avoid the C and the S. I'm just kind of working around it quickly this way. Green check, and we're extruding these and we're creating the body. So we want to make sure we create a body, and we also want to make sure that our extrude extends deep enough that where we want to extend to doesn't interfere or not include all of the solid body that we just create here. So I'm just going to go a little bit further. Green check, and now we're using the trim to surface function, the target body. Let's go ahead and do some selection here. We're selecting all of these solid bodies we just made. Simply clicking them for selection. Following the on-screen prompt, enter to complete. And then the surface sheet I've got placed over here as an offset surface. And just to make sure I get that, I'm going to switch my mode here to surface only. Select that surface, back to our function. We can see the preview over here, green check. Turn that surface off, and then finally we're going to do a Boolean operation, target being our main form, tools being all those trimmed bodies we just made. Green check. Okay, and we are doing a remove, green check again. And there you can see the finished engraving or embossing or de-embossing, I guess is a better term there. That's equally extruded into the part on a concave form. So if we flip our workflow around and we now want to emboss instead of de-emboss, the workflow is still the same, but let's just go through this rather quickly here. Again, we're going to be doing an extrude. I'm going to do window select of all the text. Oh, let's get this over into something that chooses it. Okay, so we're extruding, just making sure we go down below the surface. Doesn't matter how far down. Green check. Now we're doing our trim to surface, targeting all these extrusions we just made. And I have a new surface over here, which we'll pick. And this time we're seeing it's getting trimmed to the top, which is not what we want. We want the opposite effect. So we do have a button over here to flip that trim around, and that's the trim we want because we want these to be embossed on top of our surface. Green check, let's hide that surface, and now it's just a matter of doing the Boolean operation, targeting our original. Tools will be all these guys we just trimmed up. Making sure we get the selections correct. Green check, and this time we're doing an add, so we'll be adding to our existing part. Green check again, and let's turn off translucency, and there you can see the text has been embossed onto our form. Even with a more complex surface here, our same workflow is still going to take place. So what I'm going to do here is just copy this over to a new level. And I'm going to use model prep functions on this face here. So I'll do a push-pull. Let's grab this, and I'm going to move it 1/4 of an inch. So here I'm using my model prep to get the floor of our extrudes in the right place. And then I can just go ahead and do the surface from solid face. And there I've got my surface now to trim to using the solid trim to surface. So I'll go ahead and extrude these. There's the extrusion. Again, we're making sure that we're going below how deep we're going to trim them. And then I'll do a trim to surface, again, selecting all the extrudes. Then selecting our surface, we might need to lock in our surface only selection mode. Hitting OK. Getting our original form back up and doing our Boolean operation where we're going to target the original solid and select our extrudes as the tool, And this time we're going to be doing a remove, green check. Let's turn off the additional model there, turn this back to a solid, and there you can see we've extruded into a more complex surface. And last scenario here, we've got our same text and we want to go into different surfaces. So we've got one surface here, here, and here. So again, let's step into our typical workflow, and I'm going to create some faces from solid bodies, 1, 2, and 3, and selection. Okay, so there's the new surface over there. Keeping the original, green check. That's placed onto my level 41. Let me just turn everything else off here. And I'm going to offset this out. So do offset again, selecting these 3 surfaces. And I want to offset those out. And let me just turn on the original so make sure that I'm going in the correct direction here. So I want to be deeper. So I want to be, yeah, that's the correct way. So I'm going to go -1/8 of an inch. Green checked. And then we'll go ahead and place our extrudes onto a new level over here. Okay, and making sure, again, we're just going deep enough for our surface trim, green check. And given that, let's turn the original solid off. Let's go ahead and hop into our trim to surface and select the bodies. I'm just going to select these 2 for now. Hit enter, select the surface. I click on one. I can't click on more than one, and I get an error right out of the gate here. So unable to trim the selected surfaces. Okay, probable cause surface does not completely bisect the solid. And if we go into a top view there, we can see that the surface we selected obviously does not bisect this entire solid over here. So this is not going to work so well. We can't do multiple surface selections in here. We only get to pick one, so we need to find a different way. And so what we're going to do here is turn this surface back into a solid. Okay, so I select solids from surfaces. I'm picking my 3 surfaces and selection. And I'm going to delete the original surface. I don't need it anymore after this. Let's go ahead and green check. Okay, it's there. The coloring is not great. I'm just going to go to my model prep tab and get rid of the different colors on those faces. So now it does look like a solid. When I select this and click F4, notice what this solid is. It's an open sheet body. Let's go back to our function here. Trim to surface / sheet. So we are able to use solid sheets to trim to. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's hop into our trim function, select all of our bodies. And this time we're selecting this surface sheet as the tool that we're using to trim. Okay, everything's good there. We can turn that level off. Turn on our original body and do again our Boolean operation. Making sure that we get the correct body here as the target. Making sure we get our extrudes for the tools. Okay, and there's that completed extrusion into a shape with multiple faces. Now, at the beginning of the video here, I did mention that this would be a much easier thing to do in SolidWorks. And let's just go over a quick little preview of how that would work. Maybe this functionality comes to Mastercam one day. But when we do this, we make a sketch of our text. We can do an extrude. And in our options here, we've got the option to offset from a surface. And then obviously we can pick that surface right there. And there you can see that I can extrude into a surface. Let's give it that same 1/8 of an inch value here and green check. There you can see that how much quicker that was to do an extrusion from a surface that's just kind of indented into it. And as I did mention as well, there is another way. Let me just undo that for a second here. If you wanted to project this text down onto the face and then extrude it normal from there, again, that's a function that would be pretty difficult in Mastercam, but in SolidWorks, we've got the option here, this wrap function. So let's select our sketch again. Let's do a wrap here. What I'll do is select the face that we're going to be using, which is this guy over here. I need to turn my accuracy up a little bit for this to work on this example here. And I'm using this option here, spline surface for the method. I'm going to hit OK. Give this a second here to generate, and what you can see here, see if I get into a top view, see how the letters don't look quite the same as they used to. So the text has been projected down onto the surface, and then from there, this is extruded normal to the surface. So it's a little bit different functionality here, a little bit different extrusion method. There you can see where it lines up. I'm way over here to the side. So if you want to do something like that, that's probably something that you would want to use SolidWorks for. But there's probably a workaround for it in Mastercam, but just it'd be a couple extra steps. So there's a bunch of options for extruding things evenly into a surface in Mastercam as well as SolidWorks.